Hey guys, welcome to the We Need to Calm Down podcast. I'm Devon.
And I'm Joe.
And this is the show where we talk about all things Taylor Swift.
That's right. This is the show where two friends finally get to let their dedication to the best pop singer in the world, Taylor Swift, fly.
We'll be discussing everything from song breakdowns, Taylor news, and our insane fan theories. So Joe, how you doing, bud?
So I don't know if you guys noticed, if you're listening to the, or if you're watching this on YouTube, I don't have a nifty Taylor Swift background anymore on my Zoom. And I learned this the hard way. Apparently, as a new Mac owner, I did not know when a new update comes, do not update immediately. Recently, Mac released their new update to Big Sur, or is it Big Sur? What did I call it? Big Sur. And the last few episodes we've recorded for this podcast have been horrible because it just makes Zoom crazy slow and like crash your computer. And it turns out it's only if you use a virtual background. So now I can't use a virtual background until Apple or Zoom fixes the issue.
Womp womp.
So I have the sepia filter still works, but you're going to be seeing my bedroom. Unfortunately,
it looks clean. You made it look good.
I threw all of the dirty stuff out of frame.
I can just imagine like a wall of like clothes just on the floor.
Everything behind the bed. No, and I put all my all the Taylor Swift records behind me. So like I kind of try to make it a little bit more Taylor Swift leaning. But yeah, no, I'm happy that I'm at least still recording. I'm happy I got my new mic that we've been using for the last few episodes, which has been really cool, even though I do not need a new mic.
You didn't need it.
I also had to shut my door because of this, because I just wanted to keep the space closed. And now that you're seeing me, you might see my cat wandering around because she does not like it when the door is closed and gets a little stir crazy.
Kitty.
So she's wandering around somewhere.
Aw, cute.
How have you been? What have you been doing?
I've been good. I've been, living, chilling, relaxing. I don't know if it's just me. I feel like I'm in the middle of quarantine, like we're all in the middle of quarantine, but I feel like I have no time. Like I have so many shows that I still need to watch that I haven't watched. And I probably do have the time to watch them, but I just feel like I'm occupying my time with nothing. Like I feel like it just flies by and I'm like, maybe it's also because it gets dark a lot earlier now. It gets dark at 5 o'clock now.
It is criminal how early it gets dark.
I wake up and lately it's been kind of like, it's bright in the mornings, but if the sun's not out, if it's partly cloudy, it's kind of dark, whatever. Then I go to work for 8 hours in an enclosed building and then I leave and it's pitch black. Like, where did the day go? And then I come home and I'm like, well, I guess it's time to get in my PJs and do absolutely nothing for the rest of the night. This vicious cycle.
I'm waiting for a politician to run for president under the sole platform that they will get rid of daylight savings. It is something I feel very strongly about. I do not like daylight savings at all.
What's that one state that doesn't even follow it?
Arizona.
That's crazy.
Has this weird thing about it. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of that whole thing. I think for me, and I'm trying to get back into it this year, especially as we're getting closer to the end of it. At the beginning of this year, one of my New Year's resolutions was to watch more movies. And I, as regular listeners of the show know, I'm a very data-driven person, and I actually have a very large Microsoft Excel sheet of every movie I've watched this year. I think I'm at 140 something.
That's insane.
I've tapered off significantly since I started. January, February, I must have watched 60 to 70 movies in those 2 months alone.
Holy.
And since I've probably watched 40 movies since February. But November, I'm starting to pick it up, and I think that's going to be my... It's nice when I have a project like that because watching a movie feel like I'm doing something or contributing something. So I'm just trying to watch some scary movies now. I've just gotten in the bug and just watching a bunch of scary movies. I'm going to do that after we wrap this call.
I'm going to watch that movie Run, I think, with Sarah Paulson.
What's
it's
it about?
On Hulu. So it's basically this mother-daughter situation, and the daughter's in a wheelchair. And the trailer starts off with with the daughter asking the mom, am I a burden to you? And the mom's like, no, why would you ever think that? And it's like, well, you do everything for me. And the mom's like, well, it's because I'm your mom. And then you start to see like these creepy elements to it where like the mom is maybe like, I don't know the story behind it. It reminds me of that movie with Joey King, or the series, like how like the daughter like starts to do things herself, and she like looks at the pills she's taking and the label rips off and you can see it different name,
Wow.
like that kind of
Munchausen
movie.
syndrome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm interested. I want to see if
That's a little too psychological and real for me. Like I like just like ridiculous, like this could never happen.
mm,
Like supernatural, it still scares the crap out of me, but like the
yeah.
supernatural stuff really gets me. I
Hmm.
watched I watched a really great series the other day. Not like series, but like it was two movies that were on Netflix called The Babysitter and then The Babysitter Killer Queen.
Mm.
It's like meant to be a really bad horror movie. But it was really funny. The cast is incredible except for Bella Thorne. We don't like Bella Thorne.
Oh, that she's in.
Um
I think my roommate wanted to see that, but she was like,
I
"No, we'll go
texted
into
your
it. Never
roommate that because
mind."
I thought she would like it. She saw the first one, but she hadn't seen the second one. The second one starts off kind of slow, but it feels like a great
She definitely
sequel.
mentioned that then, because she was like, "Oh, Joe just texted me," and I was like, "Joe?" And
It's really
she's like,
good.
"Yeah, he was telling me about something." I was like, "Oh, okay."
I love horror movies. I especially love bad horror movies or like movies
Mm,
that are intentionally bad that are horror movies. That
yeah.
one was great, and I love the cast of that one. Again, aside from Bella Thorne, um, but that was a lot of banter. What are we talking about today? That's actually Taylor Swift related.
So on this typical Thursday, we will be discussing "Invisible String," which is track 11 off of Folklore. So track 11, keep that in mind. So, some quick facts about the song. It was featured in the "Yeah, I Showed Up at Your Party" chapter, which was the just the throwaway chapter. Invisible String wasn't on
The
any.
chapter that she realized she didn't put invisible string on anything and had to put it somewhere.
Yeah. So, a cool fact about the song, this was initially our favorite track by far off of Folklore.
By far.
We
Like
listened
it
to it and
wasn't
we were
even a
like,
contest.
yeah, like this is the song. Pack it up. Every other song, this is the one.
I remember like when we were collecting data, because we started collecting data from our friends on what their top songs were and like asking their opinions. And whenever someone would not say it's Invisible String, which was a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
I judged them hardcore. I was like, wow, like they just don't know what the best song in this album is.
Yeah.
Like
We were
it's so because
both.
it was so apparent to us too. Like
Mm-hmm.
and like it was unanimous between both of us. We're like, yeah, no, this song, this is the one. This is the number one song in this album. I can't believe anyone would think else otherwise. Um, and then it slipped and it fell, and I don't know why.
And it fell hard for me. It was my number 11, and it was your 7, which, by the way,
Yeah.
both my lucky numbers, because they rhyme with my name.
I do love that your lucky numbers rhyme with your name. I think that's really funny.
Yeah.
Also
That's
I mean, you
crazy.
put it as a track listing too. You put it,
Hmm.
yeah. I don't. The only thing I can think of, like, I know for me, like, we spoke about this on a recent episode where I said like I will play out a song that I like until I don't like it anymore,
Hmm.
and like I definitely think that might have been a factor for me. Maybe for you if you're the same way.
Probably.
But even so, it is interesting. Like looking back on this song, doing this song breakdown, building everything for it. I still think it's interesting that like if I had to do it all again, I don't think this song would even be that close. I just don't. I think it was a perfect storm
Hmm.
that like led to us thinking that.
Just
And
the
it was.
impact of the first listen.
I think it's one of the few songs that is. I don't think it's as dense.
Hmm.
I think it's very upbeat, which is unlike the rest of the album. So it was very easy to listen to in any
Yes.
mood you were in.
Hmm.
And you didn't have to think too much while you were listening to it. So I think those are like things that like make a song stand out and make a song be popular because it was just easy to listen to.
It was
And
pleasant.
since it was that's a perfect word for it.
Mhm.
It was a pleasant song. It still is. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, but I think as we matured and like poured over this album, we started to pull out the songs that really meant something or that really felt something.
Yeah. So I tried to see if there was any merch from Invisible String, which I bet there is, but the only thing I could find was this Tying You to Me t-shirt, which had some of the lyrics on it and then like 4 pictures of her face. And it's like, all right. Um,
I wanted to buy more t-shirts, but like
I
it's just so limiting and they're so expensive.
very expensive, and there was a whole uh someone that we follow on Instagram made a whole post about it, and she's like a younger fan, and she's like, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I'm gonna write it out. And she wrote this whole paragraph about how it's not fair that her team was making this merch so much money. And I'm like, it's sad that you have to be afraid to say that. Like,
Yeah.
it is a lot of money. $40 for a
Yeah.
gift wrapping pack? Like, girl. Like,
It's nuts, especially when she knows her fan base is young
and during a pandemic,
and during a
when people don't
pandemic. Yeah.
have disposable income. Like, I understand, like,
She's not touring,
this,
so
yeah, exactly. Like, I
but
understand it
still,
has to be made up somewhere, but still, like, you don't need that much money right now.
especially when she's cracking down or when she's known to crack down on like her brand and her copyright, that so we can't even get affordable merch from people because they'll get slapped with copyright
Mm-hmm.
infringement and stuff like that. It's just hard that like not
Yes.
only are you making your stuff the monopoly and the only place to go to get merch, but you're also making that merch unattainable to a majority of your audience. And like I'm not like balling out doing like making crazy loads of money, but I can afford some of it. But like I can't, I can tell you right now, if she dropped every t-shirt to $20, I would have spent much more money. I would have bought at least
Yeah.
6 t-shirts.
It's like, it's not like I can't afford it, but I can't justify it.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to say it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the perfect way to say it. I remember she did a deal like 2 years ago with Reputation where she did like a buy two get two free or something, and
Fantastic.
and I split it with a friend. Like we bought like a bunch of shirts and just like we bought the same shirt, one in her size, one in mine. That
Mm-hmm.
way we got the deal and it made it like $10 a shirt as opposed to the ridiculous 25 $30.
Yeah.
25 I think is a fine number for a
25, I
shirt.
can, yeah.
I can justify that, but
Mm-hmm.
again, I also this isn't Taylor Swift the merch episode. We're talking about
Yeah.
Invisible String.
All right.
Sorry,
Anyways,
I needed to
so
nip that in the bud because I could have just kept going on and on about
yeah.
it.
The song debuted at number 37 on Billboard Hot 100 during the week of August 8th. And so let's get into some context around the song. So, when you think of Invisible String, it references an East Asian folk myth about a red string of fate tying two soulmates together, or tying soulmates together. But in Taylor's case, instead of red, it's gold, which is in the song she uses. So, I think that it's a cool parallel that, old Taylor might have believed it was a red string of fate, but now in her use of color, now it is a gold string.
Well, that's what she says in Daylight, right? I used to
Mm-hmm.
think love was burning red now, but it's golden like daylight. Yeah.
Yep. In the album's prologue, Taylor writes, "It's a single thread that, for better or worse, ties you to your fate." And I think that's interesting because I think in this case, it's for better,
Yeah.
the way the song goes. But I think that she talks about how the single thread can loop all the songs together, and talks about fate that can be for the best, can be for the worst. That's how fate works.
I think it's interesting too if we want to tie it back to the last song breakdown we did where we mentioned the Robert Frost poem,
Mm-hmm.
where it says, what was it? That choice made all the difference. Like
Mm-hmm.
we said in that breakdown, the choice that you made when you chose a path to walk down it doesn't specify it's for the better. It could be for one or the other, but it's a choice you made.
Exactly.
And I like that. Like that seems to be a piece that's going through the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
the whole album.
Yeah. Aaron Dessner about the song said that was another one where, when they're referring to the song, he says that the song, it was music that I'd been playing for a couple of months and sort of humming along to her. It felt like one of the songs that pulls you along, just playing it on guitar. It has this emotional locomotion to it, a meditative finger picking pattern that I really gravitate to. it's played on this rubber bridge that my friend put on the guitar, and so it like deadens and like dampens the string, so it sounds old. Like the core of it sounds like a folk song, which I heavily agree with.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, it's kind of a sneaky pop song because of the beat that comes in. And she knew that there was something coming because she said, you know, I love this and I'm hearing something already. And then she said, this will change the story. This beautiful and direct kind of recounting of a relationship in its origin.
That's interesting. Didn't like he put out a video of like him playing the riff to the song
Mm-hmm.
before, and he was like, I didn't know what this was gonna be, but I just liked it, and I sent it to Taylor, and it became Invisible String.
Yeah. And so this song is just all about parallels. It's about where the two of them were at in different stages of their life, different ages, like paralleling from then to now. It's like the song is just all parallels, all fate talk. It's all just
All
like
parallels all the time.
things happened the way they were supposed to happen. This string of fate led me to you, which I think is very interesting. Um, and then there's a big meme that was going around about this song is that this song is the definition of meeting the word count in terms of
I love that.
lyricism. So instead of her saying like the grass was green or the green grass, she would go green was the color of the grass. Just
Like
like
that joke that goes around of like when they tell you to paraphrase what you read in the textbook, it says he died on 1975. In 1975 is the year where he died.
the date was
I,
this day when the
I also love that it's the antithesis in a way of illicit affairs, where like we went on and on about how illicit affairs said so much by saying so little. This is kind of the opposite. She's just drawn it
saying
out,
so much.
saying so little by saying so much is what she's
Mhm.
doing with this.
Exactly. And maybe that's just like the nature of a folk song to be very descriptive and very just like the way that it's spoken
Oh
seems
yeah,
kind of interesting.
it's all in the telling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's the thing is like you could say the green grass or the grass is green, but like there's something um there's something story driven or plot driven by saying green was the color of the grass. Like you can imagine like gather around children, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to tell you a tale.
Yeah.
Green was the grass, like,
It
or
sounds like
green
you're
was the
reading a
color.
book or a poem
Yeah,
or a children's book or
or you're
something.
hearing a story around a fire.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like it sounds like it was something rehearsed, and like this was intentionally chose like and meant to say it in the way that they did.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
This song is also blatantly about Taylor and Joe's relationship. Like it's one of the few songs on this album that like we mentioned it when we were going through, because like we kind of went through and poured over all the lyrics thinking, well, this is all about her writing from different perspectives and being different people and blah blah blah. And
Mm-hmm.
we looked at it and we're like, well, where does this song fit in there? Because like we couldn't find anything, but like we actually realized like no, this is just Taylor. This is classic Taylor. This is Taylor writing about herself and writing about relationships, which is odd in this album. Like it makes it stand out like a sore thumb. It's one of the reasons that we think this song didn't get on any of the first three chapters. um
Yeah.
so it was definitely interesting, but it makes us realize Taylor just can't stray too far from writing about her own life, which we're thankful for,
Mm-hmm.
because we relate to it. And then this song is also, when we did go through our big song breakdown, if you haven't listened to that episode, I'd recommend it, where we break down the entirety of the love triangle and show how all of these songs are interconnected through some kind of invisible string. Um, this song is just about Taylor Swift in that theory. In that
Mm-hmm.
theory, it doesn't even try to say that this song is about Betty or James or anything. It's just about Taylor Swift and her adult life, which is interesting. It makes it a very unique song on this album.
You know, when you hear the lyrics, bad was the blood, it's like, all right.
All right, we get
All
it.
right,
We get
Taylor. This is you. This is you, sis. So, Joe, before we get into the lyrics that jumped out to us, I just want to point out that both of us love this concept in general, but there's a lot of colors in this song.
Oh yeah.
In just this song, like green, teal, gold, blues, purple, pink skies. It's just a lot of colors in this song.
It's
Very
really
descriptive.
interesting, of all colors to be absent is red.
Mm,
Like it's interesting that like red has kind of fallen off of Taylor's songwriting recently.
hmm It's because her true love is gold. It isn't red.
True
So
love is
why
gold.
does she have to bring up the red?
And
That
it shows that it's
volatile
gone.
love.
It's gone. Like that idea, that thought that she had back when she was uh in her 20s, 22,
Hmm.
that's no longer how she views love anymore.
Nope. All right, so let's get into the lyrics. So Centennial Park is in Nashville, which is her self-proclaimed hometown, not
It's
her
not her
actual
real
hometown.
hometown. Her real hometown is Reading, Pennsylvania, 1 hour away from me. And don't you ever forget it.
Um, so she mentions that. She mentions a yogurt shop, which, if you do some research into it, was Snog's Frozen Yogurt in London, which is where Joe used to work to make a little money when he was younger as a part-time job.
She also references the Lake District in London. Which is when we had lunch down by the lakes. Um, so like this is one of those things, like a classic Taylor Swift, where she is putting out these very specific details,
Mhm.
especially specific to her own life and her own story, which again is unique in this album because we get a lot of specific details throughout the album, but nothing that is like real life or that we can immediately trace to Taylor.
Yeah, and this is the first time in the song straight off the bat you see that first parallel of here's where I was at when I was younger, here's where you were at when you were younger. Totally different parts of the world, but I was green, you were teal. And then you come to the lyric that's kind of repeated out throughout the entire chorus, time, curious, mystical, wondrous time, each of those having their own different verse. And we've talked about it before, so I don't know how much you want to get into it, but just the concept of time too, time and fate. And it's time is a curious thing, it's a mystical thing, it's a wondrous thing. And I would think curious and mystical, I think throughout the song time evolves into something with a more positive spin to it, because at first it's curious, it's fickle, it's, what is this time? And then you get mystical, and now it has these powers that could be good, could be bad. It's like, but it's mystical, it's, it's not just curious anymore, it's has this air to it. And then you have wondrous, which you would relate to a positive message. Now it's wondrous time, it's giving you all these great things that you're seeing in hindsight.
It's funny. It's like time over time gets better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really interesting too because like you do feel that like um I don't know if I mentioned this on this podcast before, but there's interesting that I've never forgotten. Um, when I was in like elementary school, one of my teachers told me that when you're a little kid,
Mm.
summer feels like forever.
Yep.
And that's because it's such a large portion of your life. So time is going slower for you as a kid, but as you get older, time goes faster. And as
Mm-hmm.
time goes faster for you, you really start to appreciate it more. Because when you're young and you have all the time in the world, and your parents say, "We'll leave in an hour," and that hour takes forever, or you're waiting for Christmas, and Christmas just takes so long to get here. And then when you're an adult and you're like me and Christmas, it's gonna be Christmas next week. Like
Pretty
it's
much.
already Thanksgiving. We're already past Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be Christmas next week.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me think of like all the times when I was a kid and like we would have like Christmas in sections, or like this was the day that we decorated, this was the day that we
Mm-hmm.
watched movies, this was the day that we did this Christmas related thing, this is the day that we went and saw lights and stuff like that. And like it felt like I had all the time in the world to do all of that stuff. And I look at my adult life when I don't, and like
Mm-hmm.
I never watch movies, I never bake cookies, I never do Christmas things anymore. um and it makes you praise and love time a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
because it's something you wish you had more of.
Yeah.
And you're thankful for the things that it's done for you too.
Mm-hmm.
I love this line, and I love the changing of the lyrics. This was, I think, the line we gravitated towards. Like
Mm-hmm.
when we would just like randomly sing this song, we were always just go to this line specifically and just like bop to it a little bit.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed when I was going through getting ready for the song breakdowns, I never knew the line "where there are clues I didn't see." was in this song. I
Really?
never heard it. We were talking about Lord a lot the other day, and how like her lyrics, like half the time we don't know what the
Mm.
lyrics to her songs are because it's just the way that she sings them.
Hmm.
We're not getting the lyrics, we're just getting the way she sings. And I think this line and the way that she sings it is one of those for me where it's just, it never dawned on me that this is what she was saying. Not that I think it's anything insane. I love Were There Clues I Didn't See. I think it's an interesting line. I think it's good, but it's nothing. I don't think it's anything crazy. But it's
Yeah.
just funny to me that I never noticed that this is a line in the song.
And then you have the line right before the end of the chorus. Isn't it just so pretty to think? And romanticism. That's the theme. That's the entirety of the song. Fate, romanticism. Isn't it just so pretty to think? All along, there was an invisible string tying you to me.
I love
Like
that.
I just that can be. It sums up the theme of this song.
Very reminiscent, very like thoughtful. I like that. Yeah.
Then you have the lyric on the other end of that spectrum. Bad was the blood of the song in the cab on your first trip to LA. So, number one, what a drawn out line. Like, and it's like, it's cheesy. It's like bad blood. It's like tongue in cheek, which, she gets with later when she says, that waitress was bold, thinking I looked like an American singer. But I just love to think about how did she find this out? Like, because I don't think they were talking when he first came to LA because he was an actor. I'm assuming he just came over for work or whatever.
Probably told her they can talk, Devin.
No, I know they could talk after the fact, but like, how did he remember like your first trip to LA? Like, or maybe it was just because of the time he was coming down here. Like that song was popular at the time, so like he must have heard it at some point down here.
Here's another interesting tidbit that I learned in my time. Writers lie to make things sound good and convenient. So maybe he didn't actually have this, and this isn't real.
Well, no, but
Uh,
exactly. It might not be real, but just again, the parallel of I was always there with you, whether it be on the radio on your first trip to LA or, you eating at my favorite spot for dinner one night. Like all these things unconsciously tie us together.
I also love that, like, one, we get another what's it called? We get another meet the word count here, because clearly anyone who is a mild Taylor Swift fan can tell that she's referencing the song Bad Blood, that she put on Reputation. No, 1989.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1989. Obviously she's referencing that song. She
Mm-hmm.
said Bad Was the Blood, but she doesn't say Bad Blood was the song on the cab on your first trip. She said Bad Was the blood of the song. So it kind of generalizes it. So it could be any song. It could be a song about fighting or something like that. But I also just noticed this. It's really interesting. It's like every word in this line is monosymbolic. Monosymbolic, yeah. It's all one syllable, every single word,
Bad
which I
was
think is
the
really
blood of the
interesting.
song in the cab on your first trip to. Yeah.
It's nothing huge, but it lets her do this like run on sentence of a song. It feels
Mm-hmm.
like in the middle of this song,
Yeah.
and keep it with tempo and keep it sounding good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if it's true. I don't know if the story that she tells here is true, but I like it, and I like the way she tells it. I like, again, she's saying, she's being cute about it,
Yeah.
which I like.
Exactly. And then after time, mystical time, she says the line, cutting me open, then healing me fine. And I just love the concept about like regarding that line and its reference to time. Like time cuts you open, but then heals you. Like,
I never realized that.
mm-hmm. And
I never put that line in the context of time.
mm-hmm.
To me, it was always like in the context of just something, like a person that did that to me or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. It was never like the concept of time. And I love that, because that's the whole thing about time. Everyone always says, oh well, it'll heal in time or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. But like the idea of time also hurting you, because we said that in the beginning, time, curious time, takes time,
Mm-hmm.
mystical time. We don't know if time is good or not by this part of the song.
Mm-hmm.
And then we realize it's both good and bad,
Yeah,
like
and
you said.
you realize the same thing, like time can cut you open and make you hurt like hell, but at the end of it, like once enough time has passed, it heals you fine, and you look back and you're like, oh yeah, like it did hurt me a lot, but like look at where I am now.
Yeah.
It's both the problem and the solution.
Oh yeah.
um and then you have this great parallel between cold was the steel of my axe to grind for the boys who broke my heart, immediately to the next line, now I send their babies presents. It's just so jarring, like it's so violent and then just pure. And that's another thing about time. It's like something like cutting you open like an axe and then healing you fine, like I'm going to send you a present.
I think that line also is all monosymbolic too.
Cold
Cold
was
was the
the
steel
steel of my
of
axe
my
to
axe to
grind.
grind for the boys who broke my heart. And then the second line now is like
Mhm.
all polysymbolic.
Yeah.
Now I send well, now I
Babies
send their babies
presents.
presents.
Mhm.
Not all
Yeah.
polysymbolic, but you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Um, we talked about this line a lot because it's just so it stands out in this whole song.
Mhm.
Like, it feels very odd from everything from all right. Well, now she's talking about sending what
Joe
is it, Joe
Jonas.
Jonas's son, like we talked about in the episode with the Rolling Stone interview where she said she's like, I'm making these blankets and stuff for their babies and stuff like that. But like also to put that next to cold as the steel of the axe to
Mhm.
grind. But it's interesting like how violent this song is. Like if you really like boil down the lyrics and point them all out, it's such an upbeat jovial tune with a really
Mhm.
good loving message. But we have lines like cutting me open, bad was the blood, wrapped in barbed wire, chains around my demons. Like you could take all of those lines and get a really depressing Halsey song out of it. Like
But it's funny that you bring up the last two lines about being wrapped in barbed wire and chains around my demons, because they're both in the bridge and they reference, like guarding herself from her past, like for a new lover, like, something wrapped all my fears in barbed wire and I put chains around my demons, wool to brave the seasons. Like it's just all these negative things, and then it's healed.
because of time.
Yes. And
But
I have.
that matches the themes of peace because like
Mhm.
which is exactly what she said about it. Like she
Mhm.
said peace is a song about being worried about her past and like her demons and everything in a past relationship. So I like that, like again we get like a string tying like this song to other ones in the album, especially one that we wouldn't think. Like peace is such a depressed not dep- well, yeah, it's a depressing song about like how this person doesn't feel like they're good enough and like all
Mhm.
of this stuff with that. And you don't get a lot of depression in Invisible String. A
Not
lot
at
of
all.
that comes from the upbeat tempo and the way
Mhm.
that the song is delivered. But you really peel back these lyrics and there's some deep and like kind of sad and morose things about them,
Mhm.
and just overtly, like I said, like violent in them.
Yeah. And then the lyric, hell was the journey, but it brought me heaven, aka the most Taylor Swift line.
We
I
see
love,
stuff like this all the time.
yeah, hell was the journey, but it brought me heaven. Like, I love that. And again, references time
Time being like
and fate.
it,
And like,
time and fate be like, yeah,
mhm.
like again, time being curious and mystical. All the time to get to where you are now has been this rough road, but now you're here. It took that time to get there, and now you're gonna have the rest of your time with this heaven, like you said. But like you said, it is a very, very like quintessential Taylor Swift line. We see this kind of line and this kind of style reference in so many of her songs.
Mhm.
Darling, I'm a nightmare dressed like a daydream. Devils roll the dice, angels roll their eyes.
Mhm.
It's so like as soon as you point out this line, I was like, geez, I feel like I've heard this before in like
Mhm.
all of her songs. But it makes me love this album. Like it feels like Red Speak Now kind of like lyrics, but Red like that, but with mature Taylor lyrics. Like you can
Mhm.
see the lyrics change and evolve over time into what they become,
Yeah.
and I love that. One random line that I put in here that has no business being in here. There's a line where she says, "And it's cool." And for some reason, it reminds me of "Cruel Summer," where she says, "And it's cruel," but she says, "And it's cool." Uh, which I don't know if there's any like intentional connection there, but to me it's interesting. The Cruel Summer is like the antithesis of this song.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like the opposite. Like you get a lot of the same imagery. She references purple pink skies like Lover. Like you can tell that like this song could have been on Lover, honestly. But instead of the sadness and angst of Cruel Summer, which is also about her relationship with Joe,
Mm-hmm.
like you get this perfect love story, but like you still get references to that angst. So like
Mm-hmm.
it feels like Cruel Summer was the hell was the journey,
Mm-hmm.
but it brought me heaven, which is the invisible string.
Yeah.
And you see like the dichotomy of these two songs.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Devin, do you want to teach me a little bit about music?
Sure. All right. Let's do scales. Do, re, mi. So,
Devin, I really hate that joke.
music behind the lyrics. So, this long song has a runtime of 4 minutes, 13 seconds. Really not that long, but compared to the other songs on the album, it's on the
13, you
longer,
say?
or 13. The song is in E major, but it stresses the minor a lot, like the minor chords in the song, which I'll get to later. It is only 83 BPM, which is the second lowest on the album after Exile. It's a very slow song. The guitar picking makes it seem faster than it is, but the tempo of the song is really just dun 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 dun, dun like 3 4. Like that's the pace of it. It's really
That's
not that fast.
nuts to me.
Mm-hmm.
Nuts to me. I hate BPM. I will never understand it.
It's really not, but okay. The
Shut
instruments
up.
on The instruments on the
Rude.
song include programmed drums, cello, violin, viola, synth, mellotron, acoustic guitar, which has that bridge on it that he talks about that dampens it, electric guitar, piano, bass, and percussion. So you have this cute little plucky 11-second intro. I'm assuming it's the acoustic guitar with occasional strings in the background. Like I'm assuming sometimes you just like pluck the violin or viola to get that extra little zing to it that you feel sometimes, but the dun 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 dun. Um, then you have the percussion and electric guitar come in after Time Curious Time. That's that transition into it. You get to have like a fuller sound to it. A lot of these instruments start coming in. At the beginning, it starts very simple. And since the beginning of the song, or since the beginning of the album being dropped, I have been obsessed with that little run, the ooh. And I was sitting at my piano for a hot minute and I've been obsessing over it. And I'm like, what is it about it that just makes it sound so good? And it's really just, I don't know the technical term for it, but you're really just like going in between two notes, just down the scale. It's like dun dun dun
Interesting.
dun 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 dun. Like it's really just down a scale in I guess intervals of two. And I was looking at all the notes that she plays. There's an F sharp, a D, or yeah, F sharp, A, B, E, and D. I want to say are the notes that she uses, and I was like, what chords? Like what is it? And then I remembered that the song is in E major, and when you play an E major scale, all of those notes are present except for the D. In the scale, it's a D sharp. So I thought maybe the D like created that sound that I liked because it like was a slight difference, but I really don't think that's it. I think it's something else. It sounds like a folk song and I can't pull why. Like I'm looking up like and I wish, I mean, I went to school for this, but I didn't study. I only took one music theory class, so you can't really be that mad at me. But I'm trying to think like what scale is this song in, like, or what method is this? How are the notes relating? I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to be smart. We've been in quarantine. My brain, there's like
This
two
is
brain
Devin
cells
trying.
left. This is Devin trying. That should be a segment. This is Devin trying. Music behind the
What do
lyrics.
you think this segment is?
Exactly. Um, so I'll jump down a little bit. But the whole song, it's pretty much the same four chords interchanged. And then you get a string that pulled me, and then you're just bam into the bridge, and it sounds so dark. And that's that A minor chord, which is the first time in the song you hear it. So it's really only a whole step down from the B minor. So you have your B minor throughout the song, and then you're just like dun, and you're like, where am I now? I'm in this dark place. And that's the part of the song where she talks about, the chains around her demons and wool to brave the seasons and barbed wire and something wrapped all my past mistakes in barbed wire. All these dark, depressing things. And then she says, but one single thread of gold tied me to you. And then you're instantly back home at your 4 chords that were throughout the song. And I just love that. Like,
it feels like there's something about that part of the song, like,
mm-hmm.
because she just wraps it all up. Like, it feels like you're wrapping a bow. So, tie me to you, and you're just like, done.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
It's like you're throughout the song, you're reflecting and you're kind of daydreaming, like, wow, this is so nice, isn't it pretty? And then it's like she just thinks, and like she's like reflecting back on her past now, and it's like, oh, a string that pulled me through all this garbage that I went through, but now I'm with you, and now I'm happy again, and now I'm home, and now I can
Do you
resume.
remember when we did the Lover breakdown? And they described Lover, like the bridge, as like going through a
Mm-hmm.
tunnel, and then you come out and you're back. Like the whole song, you're like looking, wow, look at the trees, look at all this stuff, and then you go through a tunnel, you don't see anything, and then you're back out and you see the trees and you see all the beauty again. I feel like that's exactly like what they did here. Is Jack on this song?
No.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. He's not on this. It's just Aaron Dessner. So, and when I think of that, I think you're in like this dark place or a dark room, and then you just see, instead
You
of
open
like,
a window.
yeah, like instead of you opening a door or window and seeing some like gold light coming through, you just see this string that pulls you out, and then you're back to normal.
That's pretty. I like that
Mm-hmm.
thought. I like that.
And she harmonizes with herself. Sometimes it's that lower, register, and then other times she's doing those higher notes, the purple pink skies. And then there's this heavy string outro, and she doesn't say words for a while, but she just does the ooh, and then she just goes on these like small little runs, the da na 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 na, and it's just 30 seconds of this like small little runs, and then it ends with a nice little pluck, and then it just fades into fate.
To
I
the
don't know.
next song, which
Yeah,
I don't remember what it is.
I want to say it's
Mad Woman.
Mad Woman.
Mad Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Beat you to it and got it right.
Yeah, I would have got it wrong.
Devin.
You're fake Taylor Swift fans. You don't even know the order of the songs.
Oh my god. No, I love that though. There's something about this song. It's so weird. There's something weird about the fact that we both put it so high, and
I think we overplayed
somehow
it.
it dropped. I think we overplayed it. I think that's what it is. But I'm still like, I don't think it is better than Peace.
No.
Even if we didn't overplay it, I don't think it's better than Cardigan, even though we didn't overplay it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be better than Betty, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, we'd have to do some nose of the grindstone research on that. But do you have anything else you want to say in closing before we end this episode?
I think it's the happiest song off the album.
Not that hard to find, and even so, it's funny. Like even the happiest song on the album, we have that bridge that takes us to a sad and dark and lonely place.
Yeah.
Just like our real lives.
Like you're walking along, you're like, I'm so happy. A string that pulled me.
And then 2020 happens.
Yep. March.
If you guys like what you hear, if you like this song breakdown, if you like our non-song breakdown episodes, please make sure to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It really goes a long way in helping us in the algorithms. If you haven't, give us a 5-star rating as well. If you have any friends that are Taylor Swift fans, let them know about us. Let them know that they should be listening and hear our ridiculous takes on a lot of these songs.
Yes, and make sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel at We Need to Calm Down Podcast. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We are WNTCD Podcast. If you want to see our beautiful faces, check us out on YouTube.
If you want to see Joe's room randomly.
If you want to be like that, sure. I mean,
it's a little creepy, but you know what? I'll take it.
Yeah.
If you guys have a suggestion for an episode, drop us a comment or a DM on Instagram. We've done a lot of episodes in the past based on suggestions, and we have plans to do even more. So we're always happy to hear from you guys and always happy to hear what you want to hear out of this show.
Yeah, aside from that, thank you for listening to the We Need to Calm Down podcast. We will see you next typical Tuesday. Come back.
We'll be here.